Well, let's discuss this issue further with Nico McDonald, who's founder of Media Futures, a think tank and a publisher focusing on the future of technology. First of all, a very good evening to you.
Good evening.
What do you make of this report's findings from the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, saying that there's little evidence that screen time is harmful for children? Do you agree with their findings?
It's an interesting report, and I think it's very well done. It's actually a review of 900 or so abstracts and 12 larger studies on this area. And while I haven't been able to review the larger studies myself, I think the conclusions they come to do fit with the kind of broader experience that people have had, and the experience certainly of parents that I know whose children use screens. And I think the report is actually very good in both giving the responsibility to families, not mandating particular rules, and also the 4 rules that your piece cited I thought were very good in just trying to help families to assess how their kids are using screens.
Well, yes, those are the questions that families should ask themselves, they suggest, aren't they? Like, is your family screen time under control? Does the screen time interfere with what your family want to do? And questions like that. But it's interesting you say that it's right to put the ball back in parents' court, if you like, because even the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, has talked about wanting official guidelines on the amount of time that should be recommended to children. Some parents want more specifics about what they should and shouldn't allow their children to do, but you don't agree with that. You don't think that's necessarily a good idea.
Well, even the report notes that it's very difficult to make specific guidelines, even if it were appropriate, because different families have different situations. Obviously, you have children at different ages. It does address different age categories and so on, and also things change over time. And I think there's a real problem actually with the term screen time, which would be one issue I have a bit with the report, which is that the more and more that smartphones and tablets are enabled to do different things, the more and more things we do with them. And a lot of those things are not just social media or watching video or TV, but they're interacting with other people, they're chatting, they're doing planning, they're educational and learning things. And I don't think you can group all those things together. I mean, even if there were an issue with screen time and its effect on children, some of those things are definitely very positive. And actually with console games and so on, which was another kind of screen, many people have argued, particularly Stephen Johnson, who's a very well-regarded author on technology and society, that actually they help kids develop cognitively and help them become more skillful. And in an age where we want and need a workforce, apart from anything, which is more capable, more understanding of the potential of digital technology and so on, I think that has to be a positive thing.
One area that the report, if you like, did stick its neck out on was over the issue of sleep, and did suggest that children shouldn't be exposed to screens an hour before trying to go to sleep, because it could affect their sleep, and obviously sleep will have an impact on their health. Do you agree that that's good advice?
Yeah, that does seem to be generally good advice, and I think it's nice with your kids, certainly when they're younger, to either be reading or watching something together or playing a game or possibly doing homework before bedtime. I think there is a bigger issue here as well that we need to bear in mind, is that actually a lot of these things are adult behaviours as well, and it's well reported that adults spend into the wee hours of the night looking at their phones, worried about emails from their boss, concerned about their finances and other things. And I think a lot of those behaviours actually come down from adults to children. And I think we need to look at how, as adults, we use these kind of technologies and tools, and whether sometimes we should step back from using them, whether we should set an example. And that's actually something the report picks up on as well, and I think it addresses that very intelligently.
Meanwhile, there was separate research also released which showed that girls who have a higher rate of depression, they say, than boys, and closely linked to a greater amount of time they spend on social media, also linked to perhaps the online bullying that might happen there, and perhaps a lack of sleep from spending too much time online. Are there some concerns that you do have about some areas of social media and the bad effects that it could potentially have on people? Yeah,
I think that the idea of things having effects on people, I'm quite wary of. I think these things are not driven by the technology, and I think it's, in a way, sloughing off responsibility for society's role in this respect. I mean, we live in a society which is very celebrity focused, very focused on image, and that's something, again, which is adult and social led. And I think we need to address those things at a societal level and not imagine that it's the media or social media which is doing this to our kids. And also, the report you're referring to doesn't actually make a causal connection between the use of social media and girls, particularly body image and so on. It says that there's a correlation, but that's not the same as establishing a relationship between those things. So I think we need to be a bit wary of seeing causation where there's only correlation. And I think we need to maybe give our kids a more inspiring image for how we can be as individuals in society and what we can achieve, and focus less on superficial things and more on intellectual and physical and other kinds of achievements that we could and should be striving for.
Well, Nico MacDonald, really interesting to get your take on it. It's fascinating as we get to grips with all these new technologies and the impact on our families. But thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.